Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see you. Feels a bit silly using a mic for a small room of people, but as you can see, we've got some camera gear here, so it's actually to collect the sound, also for the video feed. We're really delighted to have you here for this community conversation today. It's a subject that is near and dear to my heart. My name's Gideon Arthurs. I'm the Executive Director here at Soulpepper Theatre Company. Thank you for coming to see the show. It's been wonderful. We have 3 extraordinary shows running through the theatre right now. You've seen Bad Parent today, and we have Queen Goneril and King Lear running simultaneously. You may have heard the thunderclaps during the show on the other side of the hallway. Today, we are really blessed to have an extraordinary panel, which I'll be bringing up in a second. You'll be able to find their bios in the little programs that we printed up here. It's always more fun to have you learn about them that way than to spend half the panel talking about their prior experiences. But first, a little bit of housekeeping. First, just to say that none of these community conversations would be possible without the support of the TD Ready commitment. TD is a really, really phenomenal partner for Soulpepper, and we have to do really our diligence to make sure that the people who support the work that we do are recognized and acknowledged. So thank you to TD Ready Commitment. I'd like to thank Aria Evans as well, who organizes these community conversations. But if you have any issues about having any part of yourself recorded, please let us know, and Aria can make sure that we give that to the editing room to make sure that nothing is kept for posterity. Also a note for you that the next community conversation is coming up on October 30th, and it looks at the cost of love, and that's in celebration of the ex-boyfriend yard sale coming up very, very soon. That's by Haley McGee. It's a pretty amazing show that will be our next ones in our theaters. So, on to our panel. I'm really delighted to invite you to this, or to have you here for this panel. We're talking about survival tactics for people who are working in the arts who also happen to be parents. And I think it's a broader conversation about how we find a balance between parenting and the work that we do. So without further ado, I will ask our panel to join me on stage. We have Adam Lazarus. Come on up. Take a seat of your choice, Adam. We have Amy Nostbakken. Come on up. And somebody you've just seen on stage, Josette Jorge. Come on up. So here we go. What I love about this conversation is that it's actually touching on the secret theme of this, or let's call it secret or maybe accidental theme of this season, which is really bad parenting. I mean, there is no greater tribute to bad parenting than King Lear. It's truly the role model of bad parenting. But all the way through all of these works that we've done recently, it's really about our connection to our families, to our ancestors, and to the people who shape us, our parents. And I don't know if any of you saw Pipeline or Kamloopa or Where the Blood Mixes, of course, Queen Goneril and King Lear. Theater treads the family story pretty often, but it's become a kind of theme in the work that we're doing. And so we will talk a little bit about the ways we talk about parenting in art, but I thought we could maybe get started. I mean, you're all parents, and I'd just like to start off by asking you about how you balance out this strange career that we have with your obligations as a parent. To give you an idea, for some of you who don't know the way that life goes for artists in theater, it can be pretty complicated to find a balance. You work late hours. You're often not there for bedtimes. You have rehearsals and then shows. You're constantly at the whim of the next gig. You have to go off to another city because that's the place that will hire you. You are poorly paid, usually. There are a lot of elements of being a parent that mix badly with a life in the arts. So maybe you guys could talk about some of the joys and some of the struggles that you have as artists who also happen to be parents, or parents who also happen to be artists, however you want to take it. Josette, maybe we can start with you.
Sure. So I am an artist, and my husband is also an artist, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing yet. But the good thing about it, the positive thing about it, is that there's an understanding between us, right? He gets what I do, I get what he does. There's lots of patience between us, but also we both have crazy schedules. And right now, during this rolling world premiere of Bad Parent, we're going to Vancouver and we're going to Winnipeg. And my kids, I have a 3-year-old and I have a 15-month-old. Yeah, that face is, yeah, that's exactly it. So it's challenging, yes, but there's an understanding of the love behind our craft in order to do this and to make those sacrifices that we have to do. Yeah, so that's, and a fun little tidbit is through touring, this is my first time touring as a parent, through the pandemic, we were supposed to open in Vancouver, this play, and I traveled to Vancouver with my then 9-month-old, and my husband and my son stayed here in Toronto and met us after rehearsal, so after a month, and they brought COVID with them. That was a nice present, right? Yeah. So, talk about sacrifice. We did tech and everything, and then right before our first preview, I got the 2 lines on my COVID test, and I went, okay, yeah, this is like, talk about art, sacrifice, and kids. Kids are gross. We stopped. Everything stopped, and I cried for a week, and then quarantined in my mother-in-law's condo with all of us, and then flew home. Yeah, but we opened. Yeah, but it's fine, because we're doing the show now. Yeah. All right.
How about you, Adam?
Yeah, there's so many aspects to talk about. So I have a almost 8-year-old and an 11-year-old, and I think now, so I often do shows and then tour them, and part of what I want is to bring them with me so that they can experience and appreciate some of the joys of touring and being able to be in theater and new cities, and that gets more challenging as they've gotten older. So part of my I'm like, I want to spend more time with them. So I do find it challenging as they get older, because I realize they're not going to want to hang out with me, or I can't pull them out of school because that matters more as they're older. Also, my wife, who's not, she's an artist, aren't we all? But no. Yes, what? She's, she has a job. So she had this great line early on, which was, just say yes and let's figure out if it works. And then if it doesn't work, then we'll have a discussion. So, I was having certain jobs that would take me out of town for longer periods of time. And then eventually, sometimes it didn't feel good, so that changed. But I feel fortunate enough that most of the time it's been working, yes. And then financially, that was another thing that you bring up. I don't know. I have another thing that I do on the side to make money. That's what I'd say. So I feel like I'm not a gigging actor where I'm working all year. So I make shows, often my own work, and then present it. So I help people with writing. In corporations, I'll go in and help them with their sales conferences or whatever, and I get these micro gigs all over the place in order to pay for my art life, because I have to. And a good friend said to me, why would that, I feel guilty about that sometimes, thinking, am I not as much of an artist because I do that? And a good friend said, if you were a waiter, then you're an artist, but if you do writing for a corporation, you're not. Even though it's the same time, you're working in the restaurant all the time, but you have your theater gigs. It makes you more of an artist. So that's baloney, right? Anyway, that's what I thought of. Yeah.
Amy, I think you have a stronger position to take on this conversation, but I'm interested to hear how you find that balance.
Well, for me, that question, the balance question, started as soon as I peed on a stick. I had all this touring lined up in Hong Kong, in Australia, and we had to cancel all the touring because, and way in advance. We had to cancel that touring actually before peeing on a stick. It was when I wanted to start trying. And I had to tell all kinds of people I didn't want to tell. And our touring producer at the time kept bugging me, like, what, are you just tired? Like, why don't you want to tour anymore? And eventually I was like, Michael, I'm trying to have a baby. And then he understood, because it was a very physical and physically demanding show, and there's no way I could do it like I throw myself on the stage. I couldn't do it pregnant. So I had to cancel, a year before. And so we turned down all this, amazing sounding touring, which was really hard for me. And I kept pushing because we kept getting juicy tour offers. And okay, we'll do it for Montreal. Okay, we'll do it for California. And then eventually I just had to draw the line. And that was hard for my creative partner as well. She wasn't ready to have kids and she could keep going. And then, so while pregnant, I wasn't touring. And we both realized, oh, right, that's where all the income is. So that was shocking, even though we knew that. We should have known that. And then, and now I have a 2.5-month-old and a 7-month-old. And I didn't get to see the show today, but I did read it over 3 days in the dark while breastfeeding. But I hope to see it. And yeah, I feel the balance so tricky. Part of making shows is, a lot of it is raising money by writing grants, which you do for free. So all that administrative time, all those hours is unpaid. And it's like and casting and if it's your baby project, you're working hundreds of hours, like hundreds, for free. And as a single person, that's really easy. With no dependents, really easy. A young person, really easy. As soon as you get a partner, it's like they need some time. And then as soon as you get a dependent, even harder. And then 2 dependents, it's not happening. It's not happening. So I think I'm leaving theater, is the bottom line. And it's funny to say, to be asked this question. I have a play coming up called Universal Childcare, which is about screaming for federally subsidized childcare. Because again, when I peed on the stick, it was like, fuck, how am I gonna do this? There's no one to help me. There's no one, that feeling which I felt many times of like, which I thought a lot about reading the play because of that, like, especially if you're breastfeeding, you are inherently the chief caregiver, and there's an inherent imbalance no matter how supportive your partner is. And sometimes, some nights, or days or whatever hour, you don't know what the hour is, after, days and months and years of doing it, and that feeling of like, I can't do it. There's nobody to scream at, and you can't scream at your partner, and you just scream into the void. And I think that art that examines that screaming into the void is like really amazing, and we need more of it, and to dig really deep into it, to like the ugly part of it. And I think we don't because it's scary, because it's like so real, and what it does to our relationships is like so real. But I mean, yeah, so I find it sad also, as I mentioned on the phone, that when we were talking about this panel, that me leaving is not going to be like, it's not going to reverberate. It's not going to be a headline. It's not going to be like discussed. Amy left the theater. I'm just going to be another woman who had a child and left. So that sucks.
Yeah, it does. And I want to come back to universal childcare, just share a little bit of additional experience. My own wife is an artist. She started as an actor. And when we were talking about having a family, it was all about timing and how many shows we still had lined up and when could we do it. And then when she decided that it was time for us to have a baby, I said, whenever. we can do it on your time. And when we decided to do that, she said, I think the sentence she used was, it's time for my work to have different context. And she went from being an actor who was fairly prolific to being a playwright. She wrote Queen Goneril, which is on stage now, but had to change her artistic practice completely because of the decision to have a child. And of course, it disproportionately affects whoever the primary caretaker is going to be, especially in a couple where both live and breathe the arts all the time. I just want to bring in a slightly different perspective before we move on to the art. I actually happen to have my own two wonderful daughters, the byproduct of this decision to change context. And the eldest decided she didn't want to speak publicly, but Tallulah here, my youngest daughter, who is 10 years old, I was asking you what it's like to have parents who work in the theater. Do you want to share some? You can either come and use the mic, or you can just speak loudly, however you want. Okay, come on over.
So good.
Oh, man.
Yeah, totally.
Tallulah has already acted professionally, everybody. It's a terrible affliction. So, tell us.
Well, I think it's kind of like it always affects like what you do, and they have a lot of connections. So you're here, and then they just run into someone they know, and they're like, "Oh, hi," and they always introduce you to people, and you're like, "Hi," and they saw you when like you were 5 months old, and you don't recognize them, and then you're like, "Oh yeah, I totally know who you are." Yeah, definitely.
I just did that to you.
Yeah. And also, like, they always know people. So, like, for my first job, which was acting, my mom knew someone who's like, oh, I want to do auditions for this workshop. And then she auditioned me and my sister, and I was, like, the right age, so she took me. So it kind of affects, like, everything.
Is there a downside? Where's Mom today?
Well, she's in Stratford. Yeah. And, well, you guys kind of leave a lot, or like a lot, kind of. But like, you don't leave too much, but you leave quite a bit. Like, you used to always come here when we lived in Montreal, and you always went like everywhere because you needed it for your work, and like my mom now has to go and teach some places, and then like you guys leave quite a bit.
Thanks, Tallulah. I think Tallulah does bring up an interesting point, which is about that community. I think when we decide to become parents in the artistic community, we have these dreams that it's going to be some bohemian collective that everybody's raising each other's children. It rarely turns out that way. So let's talk a little bit about art about parenting. We've just seen this extraordinary piece by Ince, really touching on those darkest moments of what we're feeling when that crying sound comes from the bedroom at 3 o'clock in the morning, or the disconnection that it might sow in a relationship. Amy, do you want to dig in a little bit more about the piece that you're working on? Tell us a bit about it and what you're exploring.
Sure. So it's called Universal Childcare, and it's an 8-person a cappella choir screaming for federally subsidized childcare. And we're examining the 4 richest countries on the planet, and comparing and contrasting their federal policies by looking at 4 families and how, lack thereof affects their lives and their relationships as well. And it's told through, there's no spoken dialogue, so it's all told through song and projection and music, a cappella. So, and this was inspired by, to be honest, by peeing on a stick before I had a kid, peeing on a stick and not keeping the child, peeing on a stick and realizing I can't do both. And that is like is true. And I look back and I see the things that I wouldn't have done, and it's really true. Like, there's no help, there's no support. We don't, as a society, value childcare. We don't think it's a basic human right. And the fact that, statistically over 90% of chief caregivers are women, we don't value women as highly, I guess. And so the effects on female identifying careers, lives, and the role models we're creating, or lack thereof, not being able to climb the ladders, and as I'm saying, so another woman's story isn't going to be on stage if I leave the theater, which is like a little drop, but it represents just the truth. And you look across every sector, and the arts is really bad, film is really, really bad, theater's bad, publishing's bad. Music is just the worst, in terms of positions of power, especially. So it's we're making the play and looking at comparing also with countries where they do have subsidized childcare, and comparing and looking how that works. Of course, they're not like perfect countries in other ways, but trying to find an answer so that it's not just like a question play, but going like, here's what we could do, and here's the effects it would have on the economy, on our lives, on your children's lives. Like, don't we value children and caregivers? And we also look at, paid child work, and how that's, like Trudeau's $10 a day plan is really not that well thought through, and the holes in it is, only 17% have signed up, kind of thing. So yeah, because of that peeing on a stick, keep coming back to urine. It's the truth that I can't do both, because I don't have the support, and we live in a country where we do value like universal health care. We do believe that like the health of of everyone in this country is important, even if it's not me who broke a leg. That even if it's not me who's having a child, that I value the next generation, and we're trying to like make a little flick the switches in people's heads to go, oh, it is universal basic human right. I do value gender equality, gender equity, and to see how universal no childcare help is a central barrier to gender equity, it's very well documented. Like, there's no mystery. If I knew when I got pregnant I was gonna have free childcare whenever I wanted it to start, I'd have 3 kids. Which is, I've never said that before. That sounds odd, but it affects everybody whether you want kids or not, and so we're examining that.
Through song.
Song and dance.
Through song and dance. Josette, I know that you sort of had an interesting artistic epiphany when you became a parent, because as many of you might know, when you become a parent, you are subjected to some of the worst sounding and looking stuff on television. That you're watching your kids consume just terrible, screechingly annoying work on screen. And I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about, during the pandemic, I think that you had made a shift in terms of some of the things that you were working on.
Yes. So 2020 hit. My husband Fane and I, our other source of income is we teach kids drama and speech. And so we did that all online. So we were working at home online, and we had our then 2-year-old, didn't know what to do with him, so we stuck an iPad in front of him. And once in a while, we would see what he's watching, and it was not great. The stuff that they were watching. Number one, we felt that he wasn't being represented. We felt that a lot of it was kind of mindless. A lot of it was he was copying certain phrases that the characters on the TV shows would say, and even on YouTube, there's no control, so he would learn about consumerism, and he was asking for these things. They were pretty much commercials, right? These YouTube kids unboxing toys or whatever. So anyway, an opportunity came up online to do a writing class, BIPOC Film and TV. They hosted a kids TV boot camp, and I decided to audit it while breastfeeding, and said I'm going to sign up for the next round because as a parent, I think there needs to be more things on TV, in the media that better represents my kids. So I did the workshop, and through the workshop we wrote a pilot, and I submitted that just into the void, and ended up getting my first TV writing job through it. And so since then I've been working as a writer on animated kids television shows. And as a parent, not only do I want, the kids to learn something out of it and be represented, but I feel like as a mom, I can provide this, and a BIPOC mom, I can provide this voice and these stories to these kids. I mean, they're 11-minute cute cartoons that are on TVO or wherever else, but a lot of them, I try to put a little bit of secret things in there. For example, my latest script, I named the kids Sampa and Gita, which are, Sampa Gita is the national Filipino flower. So, I put a few little Easter eggs in there that make me feel good about representing. But it's been a path that I've been exploring as getting into the TV writing world. Yeah.
That's some pivot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how I find time. I like my husband, he took this picture of me writing while breastfeeding on the bed in a bathrobe, with dirty laundry everywhere, and I went, I'm really proud of this photo, actually. Yeah. Yeah.
That's actually one of the most disturbing memories I have about my wife, who she wrote another piece called If We Were Birds. And the climactic scene of If We Were Birds involves, it's an adaptation of a Greek myth, and it involves a father being served his chopped up child in a pie. And Olive was 6 months old at the time, and Aaron was rewriting this pivotal scene with the baby and the baby Bjorn sort of standing at the kitchen counter, and I thought, I'll take the baby for a walk. As we are doing that, art and life, we don't want them to cross over in this particular moment. Adam, you wrote a really acclaimed piece about parenting. I'm not going to ask you about that, but I want to ask you sort of how your experience in fatherhood has shifted your artistic practice and the things that you're exploring.
Yeah. So what do I want to say? I want to sort of talk about your play a bit. And there's a line like, "Does my kid like me?" And I think it's so fascinating at an 18-month child to look at it and say, "Do you like me?" And they're like, they don't. That thought process isn't there, but that resonates with me a lot. And so, I feel like I have a dog. I have a new dog who's 7 months, and I did the same thing with the dog. I was like, I don't think the dog likes me. And the dog is 3 months old and doesn't have any thought but that feeling in me, and I feel guilty, and I'm like, how do I change? What do I do? How do I create the circumstance that my kid is thriving? Or sorry, my dog is thriving. And then I thought, oh, that's what I'm doing with my kids too. Anyway, so about my art. I feel like my dad, my granddad, my great-granddad didn't have self-reflection. Didn't think how am I as a parent? What am I doing? They just did it, and they were like, I'm told to do it this way, however absent that might be. And so we have this moment in now where we have vernacular around how to be as a better human being, and how to show up as a father, and how to question gender norms. Everything is it's a great opportunity, and I think even me saying this is way ahead of most people. And that's what my art interrogates, is fighting history fighting like, but men are supposed to be like this, and dads are supposed to be like this. I'm like, I don't know what any of that means, and I never did. So I like to portray the opposite of the person who's like really hard done by with change or something. So this latest piece, the one that I did before, was about a man who like just simply couldn't release power and release history. But very practically, like, I will not apologize for being a dad. We made an agreement when you were born. I'm the father. You're my daughter, and you will not question what I say. Like, that's ridiculous. Is that really the arrangement? And who made that arrangement? Anyway, so I think, and this latest piece is still like that. Like, how do we be in the world right now? I'm never quite sure, and I'm always sort of questioning what's the best way to keep showing up to the party and doing the work to make sure everyone gets to sit at the table. And so, yeah, that's what I'm working on, and I like it.
I'm going to sort of ask you the last two questions in tandem, and we'll sort of open it up to the room as well to see if you have anything else that you'd like to add in. But a lot of what we're talking about is about our changing relationship to work. And I don't know, out in the audience, if this resonates for you, but I've been working in the theater. I started as a kid actor when I was Tallulah's age, and I've seen all the permutations. And I think in general, in the world today, we're really questioning our relationship to the way things have always been done. In the theater world, I can't tell you what the disruption of the past 2 years has done in terms of our understanding of what a theater company is, or even what a live performance should be, or go along the ways that technology have changed our relationships with each other, to how as communities we're going to respond to climate change. I mean, we are in a moment of profound upheaval, transformation, change, questioning, putting things out there to be re-examined. In a kind of practical way, what do we need to do in this sector, and I'd open it up to say in the world, to make sure that we honor caretakers? And we should acknowledge, right? We're talking about one particular dynamic of caretaker. We're talking about a fairly traditional family model, but there's lots of untraditional family models. And I can tell you, as a parent of young kids, that came along with me becoming the caretaker of my parents as well, which is another kind of dynamic that I never thought I'd have to fit another 30 hours a week of fixing people's iPhones and traveling back and forth to take care of people into the mix. So in a practical way, Amy, if we wanted to keep you in the sector, what could we offer you in order to feel like you could bring your best self to your work?
I think the conversation is starting, and it has started, or I have observed it starting in the last few years. And some of the changes, as I said, it's really like I think that the switch needs to flick. When I throw out a call for audition, in the call for audition, I don't even say anything about the show. I just say, we'll be subsidizing your childcare if you get a role. And that's like, to someone like me, it's like, if I was a gigging actor, I would apply even if I wasn't right. It'd be like, this is radical. I hope I get a part of this play, and I hope like the process sounds awesome if they're subsidizing childcare. So I think it's like, it's not that hard. Like my company, it's barely a company. It's like 2 people, and like my address is the company address. It's like, what is this? And we subsidize childcare. So like Soulpepper, that's all I'm saying. Like companies, and I did work here, and they did subsidize my childcare, some of it, by the way. But I think that it's like we have wheelchair ramps. we can give some money so that parents remain part of the conversation. Parents' stories continue to be told, like the one you all saw today.
Thanks. Adam, any thoughts on what we need to do to make space for caretaking in our sector?
Yes. No, I'm kidding. What do I think? I feel like as an aging white Jew, that teaches bouffon. Bouffon meaning like the art of satire, that I questioned lately. I want to pass the bouffon, and why did I learn from a white person, and why are all these like old white men teaching this form, which is to give voice to people who generally don't have voice? I find it fascinating, and that's been a journey I've been on for the past 5 years. And so my sphere of influence is to create passing on that information. Like, how can I hold up, because I do have a lot of thoughts and information and experience doing this one specific thing, which I think is amazing and has the potential to disrupt and save the world sometimes. So that's what I'm trying to do, is pass over things and not and like kill ideas of guru, which I find great that that's happened. Like, gurus, whatever. Everyone's a great teacher. Learn what you can. But anyway, that's what I'm doing. And then with my own specific work, when I make it, I don't know. I know what body I am, and I think that that's important to find a story that still feels complicated, and I don't even want to say universal because it's mine, but like I want to keep disrupting, and I think if we're not asking tough questions and getting to deep, really tough experiences and portraying deep, tough experiences, then we won't do justice to healing or making art fun to go to. Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
What do you need as you go forward as a parent in this sector?
Oh, I'm learning as I go, and I can relate to not wanting to piss people off. I'm an actor. I like pleasing people. So, and gigs are hard to come by, especially really good, juicy, wonderful roles like I am honored to have through this show. So I feel like a lot of that burden went on to my parents and my mother-in-law, and it was just kind of like a given. When I said yes to this role, when I first got an opportunity to audition for the role, I was almost afraid to even bring it up to my husband, because what will that mean? And we did have a very open, honest, not so friendly conversation about the possibility of this. And I wonder, like, if the conversation started with, I have this amazing opportunity to work on an In's Choi play with one of my best friends, Rogi Yu, and childcare is taken care of. We have an Airbnb that has at least 2 bedrooms. We're gonna, if our parents want to take care of the kids, they're gonna get some money off of that too, or they get to travel with us. You know, I wish that that's how the conversation started, instead of, so there's this thing that I want to do and I'm really passionate about it, and I know it's going to be a big sacrifice for you and for our marriage and for, so this process, like I said, super fortunate, super honored to be a part of, honestly had a lot of its bumpy struggles. And yeah, I think of it, a lot of it is on me too, asking for what I needed and asking for what hey, the tour isn't finished yet, I could ask. But it's a lot of the, I'm an actor and I'm happy to get this and no problem. Yeah, no, I got it all taken care of. My parents are good, it's fine. Putting out that face and, yeah, we had COVID, but it's fine. I'm going to be at rehearsal again, and it's not scary at all. Showtime. Like, I wear that mask very well. So, yeah, I think first and foremost, it's me, even just talking about it right now, thinking about what I need and thinking about what I ask of my family. Yeah.
I have this thought about like producers helping as well with that conversation. Like for me, a producer, when we were on tour, saying, you need to ask for a 2-bedroom apartment everywhere you go. Or do you know about this subsidy in the Toronto government that can help you with childcare, and they can pay for 3/4 of it? Like having people in power positions who are running the show to say, like, these are the things that are actually at your disposal, and so that you can show up and be like, I'm happy to be here, and there's somebody else going, I need a 2-bedroom apartment. There has to be a stipend for this. So I think that's happening. I think more people are coming to the table fighting for the needs of parents more.
Yeah. Thanks.
I mean, I can tell you as a person who runs one of these companies, these are the kinds of conversations we're having. I was saying to Amy earlier, and we'll wind up here and open it up for a couple of questions if there are any, but again, from the outside, you might not be able to tell how profoundly disrupted theater has been. I mean, it will never be the same. It really is, in terms of, we often talk about these notions of disruption or innovation, or the theater world shut down for 2.5 years completely. It was the first to shut, the last to reopen, and I can tell you, living inside of it, it hasn't really come back in the same way, and I don't think it will. A lot of the people that craft theater have moved on to other things. There's a study that came out recently saying that 40% of cultural workers will leave the sector in the next 2 to 5 years. That's almost half of the people working in our sector who have just decided that they can't handle it anymore. That is scary, but it is also a huge opportunity to build back in a way that actually makes space for these conversations. And I think I look around my peer group now, the people who are running companies, and there's not a single one who isn't thinking deeply about how to make organizations, create organizations that make space for carers, that make space for folks who have been marginalized and pushed aside. If there's a future for this sector, it's actually by having people who have dynamic needs included, so that they bring with them the communities who want to talk about the things that are important to them. And I do think that's a moment that we're experiencing right now. So I'm really, in a way, I'm optimistic, even though I'm really, really tired. I just want to give a chance for our lovely audience. If there are any questions or comments that you'd like to add in, please feel free. It's because you were just such brilliant, comprehensive guests that they aren't speaking up. Yes, please, Paula.
I'm a former teacher, Gideon.
My best ever teacher, I should say, transformed my life, and I see her at the theater all the time. Paula Citron.
I'd like to ask you all as parents, the 4 of you, I'm not a parent, but it just so happens there are a number of babies in my extended family, and I have to say, I'm kind of appalled by the current phase of upbringing. You never say no to a child. The child sleeps in the parent's bed, so I was interested in the play. It's not even being a helicopter parent. Like, it's not even hovering. It is absolutely giving over your life to this child who has complete freedom because they're never told no. And the other thing is, in all the cases of these babies in my family, they hold them all the time. They never put them down. They say the latest thing is you hold a child as much as you can. It makes them feel comfortable. I'm thinking, what are these kids going to grow up to be? Or am I the old fogey who remembers the old-fashioned way of child rearing? But from someone who's on the outside, I have to say I'm kind of perplexed by the current wave of, child rearing. And if it was just one of these, but it's not, it's all of them. There happen to be 5 babies in my family right now, and all of them are being brought up in this way. Never put down, never said no, allowed to do whatever they want, taking over the marriage bed. So I'm just wondering,
Paula, they're all going to grow up to be polyamorous snugglers, is what it's going to be in the end. Yeah, go for it, Adam.
One, I'm not going to quote the podcast correctly, but the podcast was like, was it like the 60s or something? It was like men were told, don't kiss your kid because it's bad. You mess your kid up if you kiss your kid. Oh my God, no way. That's wild. So, and I remember actually calling my sister, who's a social worker with 4 children, saying, I think I kiss my kids too much. She's like, kiss them. Don't worry about it. Kiss them every second of the day. So that was my first thought. My second thought is, I don't know, it takes all kinds. And you said, like, is it me? Is it them? Maybe on both sides. Like, you know, I think there's lots of different parenting. I say no to my kids all the time. And then I have friends who, their kids, they never say no. And I'm like, well, I could sit here judging them, or I could not, because they judge me too. I think, like, I don't know, it takes all kinds. So I think they're going to grow up and save the world. That's going to be my hope, that everyone's just going to save the world. So I don't, that stuff doesn't bother me. I'm like, I don't know, we're all figuring it out. As were these people in the play, like, we just don't know. We're doing our best, and we're all, excuse my language, we're fucking up all the time, and then questioning it, and then trying again. And so, yeah, you know, extremism in any form is always strange to me, but I also try not to judge. I do my best not to. Okay.
Amy, do you have some thoughts?
Yeah, I agree that that what just my personal experience is I don't know what I'm doing. I follow my intuition, and sometimes that leads me. Having 2 kids, I go, I'm not doing that again, but I'll do that worked out, so I'll do that again. But definitely with your first baby, it's just like the line in the play, like, I can't believe they let us just walk out the door with us. I feel like everyone is amazed when they get home. They're like, now this is just the rest of my life. There is also a lot of content. I mean, different in terms of generationally. Now there's just social media, and parents are scrolling all the time. And if they find out you had a baby, which they all find out, then there's nothing but childcare gurus. And like, there's a million different childcare gurus. But also often the gurus from all around the world seem to be synced up in their, like, don't say no to your kid kind of deal. So maybe that also has an effect on us in terms of, like, it's just, to me it feels like just oversaturation of information and advice unsolicited, but in my advertisements. So that's a lot. I had to go off social media for 2 years. And now I'm back on, and it's like, whoa, it's insane. So yeah, I think that's an added challenge.
Yeah, we have the same algorithm on our social media. There's a lot, and there's a lot of different theories. And before I had kids, you know, my sister was the first to have the baby in our family, and if she watches this, I'm sorry, she knows. Like, there's a lot of judgment. There was, you know, we would go over to her house, hang out with the baby or the toddler, and then my husband and I would drive home and be like, wow, I can't believe she did that. We would never give in like that. We'll have rules. It's not going to sleep in our bed, right? And then we had a baby. And then it was kind of like, what are we going to do to survive? You know, I have an audition at 8 a.m. He's going to fall asleep on my boob tonight because that's the way I'm going to sleep. So sometimes it was out of desperation, and sometimes it was purposeful as well, you know, wanting to change up how things were maybe possibly done in a traditional sense that didn't really feel good with our guts. And it's trial and error, and yeah, we're doing our best. And oftentimes, yes, we are making mistakes, and I don't know how my kid's gonna grow up. They're gonna save the world, maybe. I don't hope so. or they're going to have to sleep on my boob until college.
I'd add one last thought. You know, there is an ingredient that I feel is missing in our lives as modern parents right now, and it's the concept of the village. And I think that in another time, raising children was a collective effort, not just parents doing their best as they could. And you know, I did a lot of research recently on I gave a talk about empathy, and one of the extraordinary stats that I found, which I'm not going to misquote, but essentially, children today travel in a radius of less than 300 meters from their homes until they're about 13 or 14. In the 70s, that was several kilometers that they were able to go. And it was because we felt that there was a social fabric around us that we trusted and that we felt might pick up our kid if they fell or redirect them back home when the streetlights came on. And I do think that there is an isolation to modern child raising right now that means that we have to find all of the solutions ourselves as opposed to in the community around us. And I do feel sad about that. I do feel it creates that dynamic that you're talking about, Paula, where we have to provide all the fun. We have to be the most fun. We have to be the disciplinarian. We have to make sure that they have a moral compass. Everything comes down to the parent. And I find that a shame. That's all the time we have. I'll leave us at that on shame. The shame of our parenting. I'd like to thank you for being here. First, thank you to our panelists. You've been wonderful. And to you out in the audience, and to you on camera. It's been such a delight. We hope that you'll join us. Queen Goneril and King Lear are on stage until October 2nd. That's a whole different parenting outcome that you don't want to think about. And then, of course, we have Hayley McGee, who's coming, who's an extraordinary performer, has just taken the biggest plaudits at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival for her most recent show and is coming to us next. So we really encourage you to come and see that. Thank you so much, and thank you to TD as well for their support. Have a lovely afternoon.